I hereby call the Kansas County Board Committee of the Kansas County Human Service and Public Health Department. I'd like to welcome everyone here, and commissioners, I believe you all got copies of the minutes from October 20th in your Dropbox. If there's not any additions or corrections, I would like to entertain a motion.
I will move that we approve those minutes.
A motion by Commissioner Nissen and a second by Commissioner Almond to approve those minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. And up next, we have Director Lippert with a contract for us to consider, an agreement.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I am here today to present the 2021 Woodland Centers General Participation Agreement. Under state statute, each county is responsible for using available resources to develop and coordinate a system of locally available and affordable mental health resources and services. In Kandiyohi County, we have a long-standing partnership with Woodland Centers to provide many of these services for those within our community. Today I'm here with the 2021 Woodland Centers General Participation Agreement. Under this agreement, Woodland Centers provides adult and youth crisis stabilization services, substance use detoxification services or detox services, and then chemical use assessments for our Rule 25s under this purchase of service agreement. Woodland Centers is looking at a 2% increase from 2020 to 2021. I now will go through each breakdown of the areas for service and pricing. Adult crisis will be $273 a day, youth crisis $294 a day, detox $435, and then each chemical use assessment will be $125. A total agreement of $1,021,859.20.
Okay. Any questions, comments from the board? Mr. Imdek?
Sure, Jenny, you're looking for approval of this contract. I would move that, Mr. Chair.
I will second that.
Okay. A motion by Commissioner Imdek, seconded by Nissen. Any other comments or questions? Other than we're very fortunate we have this service in our community and don't have to take people to other counties to receive these services. And they do an excellent job, I know, over time.
Yes, yep.
No more questions or comments? I'll call the question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, you can give the credit to the counties that started this.
Yes.
And that's the key. That was this is the result of, like Prairie Lakes Youth Programs and others, or Prime West, was counties that got together to deal with situations that they had. They were not able to get the state to get involved, so they solved the problem themselves and created this entity which has been, surviving and thriving and serving for several decades right now. So our ancestors, in a sense, were actually the creators of these good services.
Yeah.
Well, and I would add, MCIT was a creation of the counties before we were paying insurance.
Yep.
And that's been a very good thing for the counties as well.
And Earl Larson was
Earl
one
Larson
of
was
the
one of
5
the-
or 6
yeah.
people that came up with the idea.
Yeah.
So,
Great, thank you.
thank you.
And next, I'd like to call on Director Trish Appleton, updates on the Veteran Services. Good morning.
Good morning. How is everyone today?
Good morning, Trish.
Great day to get out and vote, huh?
Yeah.
We've been busy as we can be with limited people coming in and out of the building. But our office has been very busy with the COVID grant that the State of Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs has for individuals that have been diagnosed or passed away from COVID or have children that are doing distance learning or hybrid learning. So far this year, we have brought in $72,452 from this grant, which compared to other counties, and I'm not going to name them just because they get mad at me, $10,000 in a neighboring county about our size, and $25,000 in another county that is bigger than ours. So pretty pleased with those numbers. When the grant first came out and kids were being sent home from school. Larry sent out an email to the school superintendents so they could get the word out to the parents, which helped a lot. I don't think a lot of other counties did that, so that was very helpful. I see this number rising as more cases are coming about and more schools are doing distance or hybrid learning. And so we're just keep plugging around and keep advertising, and any veteran that I see out in the community, I ask them, do you have a kid in school? Are they 8th grade or lower? Are they hybrid learning? And the applications are very easy and they get their money within 4 to 5 days. So it's to help with the cost. If you have to hire a tutor, buy other equipment, set up a desk area, you don't have to provide any proof that what you spent that money on. So it's a very good opportunity for any veterans out there. Right now, we're talking about Veterans Day. There's not a lot of programs going on. John Lindstrand is going to have a display set up again. I'm sure it's going to be pretty limited on the amount of people that can be in and out of there, not like typical years, but the display is going to happen again this year. He is having some sort of a program as well. And we have switched it up to give away our turkey baskets on Veterans Day this year too. Through the VFW Auxiliary, we give out 88 Thanksgiving meals a year. And the way we chose the families this year, because it's hard every year not to give to the same people because they call, is we kind of went through everyone that's used the COVID grant or everyone that has come in and needed some financial assistance this year. So that's how we chose them this year. We are working with one family every year. We do this for a family in need over Christmas time. We choose one family. We sponsor them. They give us a list of items that they need either for their children or themselves. And it always turns out to be way too much stuff for the family, but I always tell them to hang on to some of the things for maybe future birthdays or other holidays. So we started working on that. We are in desperate need of a van driver. We are down to one van driver who is having some minor health issues. So if any of you know of anyone out there that's retired that just needs a very part-time job, it would be great. I know that we're going to bring it up at the Legion meeting this week as well. Just don't want to burn my only one van driver out right now because then we aren't going to have anyone. So we haven't been doing a lot of trips to St. Cloud, so it's typically, to Minneapolis. It's typically just to St. Cloud where we're going now. And they are very limited trips as they're doing mostly telehealth. So, unless someone needs a CAT scan or lab work, we aren't usually on the road anyway, but.
Trish, okay if I take some questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Commissioner Emdek, please.
Regarding your van driver, a little bit of information. Is it a volunteer position? Is it a paid position? You already mentioned that the trips were mostly local or regional. And is there any special licensing or anything like that? Do they need a chauffeur's license, for example?
First question, they do get paid by they do get paid by the county, but they're just part-time employees. They get paid by the hour. You do not need a special license because the veterans have to be able to get on and off. There is no wheelchair accessibility or anything, so no special driver's license is needed. And just the St. Cloud is typically where we're going right now.
And they would contact who if they have an interest?
That would be me, yep. And then we would have to have some paperwork filled out, of course, with HR so they can get paid.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question. Been getting a lot of complaints from veterans about the VA and not being able to get in for appointments. Stearns County is a kind of a high COVID area, so they're really, really picky on who they let in there. Unless you, like I said, unless you have to get in there. So, I had a veteran call me last week, just furious because he couldn't get his medications, and just so happened my driver was up there, so I called the pharmacy and van driver picked him up for him, and he didn't come get him from me for 2 days, so we obviously didn't need him too bad, but we got him. But
Oh, that reminds me.
we've been busy with claims and grants and trying to do them over the phone. The VA is great about letting us do all this stuff online instead of mailing stuff in. Hopefully they keep it like this because it's a lot easier. It is. And they're allowing us to sign some of the paperwork for the veterans so the paperwork isn't going back and forth and germs aren't being spread back and forth. And if I have a veteran that calls, like I had a lady call yesterday, she wanted an appointment with me and I said, let's really just try to do this over the phone because, if we can just solve everything over the phone and talk this out over the phone. I think I had to call her back 3 or 4 times to get her questions answered, but it just seems to be working out a lot better, a lot easier and a lot safer. That is about all that's happening.
Well, it's certainly a very important service to veterans of Candioi County, and I'm glad to hear that there's some flexibility now with the COVID going on. Questions or comments from anyone? Commissioner Amon?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad you're giving this report. All the work behind the scenes you're doing at the office there need to be told. There are some positives that are taking place in our county to help the veterans. I know we haven't had a meeting for a while, but during that time, I've had a few people that are concerned about, you mentioned the van and the drivers needed. And we, as a board or as a group, the volunteer group that meets, there have been people that have said, I wish we had a handicapped wheelchair assist van. Is that in the plan down? Have we applied for that, or do we have to go through that application process?
We would have to purchase a different van, first of all. Second of all, you'd have to pay the drivers a much higher
Right.
hourly rate. And I would say throughout the year, we maybe get 2 phone calls for people that need to get to the VA that are in wheelchairs.
And that was my next question. How many people have been requesting that type of service? I know a lot of volunteers, personal people or friends of theirs have been transporting them up there if they need assistance. Maybe that's something we should talk about to see just what the needs are.
Yep, I know that personally, if I know the family, I've asked my mom and dad if they could use their van, the family members, to get them up there because they have handicapped accessible vans. So we try to find accommodations for them without, I hate to have one if we only need it once or twice a year.
Right. Yeah. Well, we can talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Nissen?
Well, just an aside to this, I sit on the board of the Mid-Minnesota Development Commission, and they're working now on a Rural Transportation Coordinating Council subcommittee. I'm on that. And so we're trying to figure out how to deal with just exactly what you're talking about. Everyone has the same problems. Drivers are hard to find. And so we're trying to work with all the various people that are involved in transportation to solve some of these problems, but it's going a little slow. But I think we're going to get there. The state highway department has funded grants for us to study and to come up with a solution. So hopefully that will happen. It may not be right away, but I understand if you only have 1 or 2 trips a year where you need a wheelchair, it's obviously a tough decision to make to buy that. But other transportation folks have got these handicap accessible vehicles, and if we could somehow get everybody working together, I think we can solve that problem.
I agree, yep. And just on another side note, I just had a veteran call me from Florida that's moving up to Minnesota. He actually bought a place in between Candioi and Atwater. And he wanted to know what benefits were available for veterans in Minnesota. And I went down the list of all the benefits of that for this particular veteran because he's service connected. And he said, wow, we don't have anything like that in Florida. So, the property tax exclusion for him, a fishing and a hunting license, you don't think a big deal, but for some of these people, it is a big deal to get the lifetime hunting and fishing license. So once again, to be a veteran in Minnesota, you're very, very fortunate. Not a lot of other states have all these benefits.
I just question his judgment when we're coming to Minnesota from
I know,
Florida.
from Florida, but
And I'm just kidding.
I know. He's probably got a beautiful place with some acreage out there,
We
and
could trade.
no alligators walking through your yard, I don't know, so.
Any other questions from the board? If not, thank you very
Thank
much
you. You guys have a
for
great
the
day.
update and
Yep. Thank
and
you,
what's
Trish.
happening. It's something we wonder about with all this COVID stuff going on. And next up, Director Tammy Jo Weiberg, and you got some updates for us and a lot of information to share.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So because I was a little slow on getting my agenda together for this morning, I didn't get it to you guys beforehand, so I just have a couple updates for you, though, and a couple things to present. The first thing is, at our advisory board meeting last week, I think it was last week. It's all rolling together now as we go through Zoom meetings. We did review our Community Corrections Comprehensive Plan. Under the statute for the comprehensive plan, there's a process, and it's 401.06 Comprehensive Plan Standards of Eligibility and Compliance, that we submit our comprehensive plan to the Department of Corrections. As part of that process, we apply for our application for the Community Corrections Act subsidy. So we will be submitting our comprehensive plan that was approved through the advisory board on November 6th. I will review that with the Deputy Commissioner of Corrections and the Commissioner of Corrections, and then hopefully we'll have that finalized by the end of the year. As part of that plan, our Community Corrections Act subsidy does request $785,781 from the Department of Corrections for our funding that provides funding for our supervision status, our felony supervision, supervised release, and those types of things. It's a portion of our budget that we do get from the state in terms of supervision. So I'm requesting if you could approve for that application to go in with our comprehensive plan.
Okay, any questions?
I would move on that
Second.
request.
A motion by Roger Imdak, second by Commissioner Matson.
I have a question for 750 and change,
785,781.
and that reflects an increase of,
I think it was 3% this year, just a small increase.
and that is not, that's a different issue than the issue of overall increased funding for community corrections and supervised release, as we've been down to the legislature to talk about.
This is actually the same dollars that I'm talking about. When we talk about our increases that I'm looking for at the legislature and so forth, these are the increases I'm talking about. So it's the basic plan that the Department of Corrections provides to our county to supplement community corrections. One of the reasons we've talked about this again and again is because in previous years, the last couple of years, they have been significantly behind in their increases. And so every year they're behind, our increases fall further and further behind. Our support from the state falls further and further behind, and it's become a significant problem. So whereas I'm coming up with some numbers here off the top of my head, but 20 years ago, the state provided much more significant funding overall for our Community Corrections Act counties than they do today. So it's decreased to a smaller percentage. In relation, the county's putting $1.9 million into community corrections compared to what the state's putting in. So the county is significantly putting more money in community corrections than the state is at this point.
And this is a request, there's no guarantee that that request is going to be honored, or what has the history been on
The
that?
history is it's just an automatic payment. I mean, we have to request the dollar amount from them, but there has been no indication or anything that this would not go through.
Okay. Would you repeat the motion?
This, to approve the application to go in with the Community Corrections Act Comprehensive Plan.
Okay. Any other questions or comments about this? Commissioner Amon?
Thank you for the report. Are there any specific needs? I know it might not be in this grant proposal. I don't know what, I haven't seen the complete grant. Is there anything that specifically we need to aid in community corrections as far as needs for retraining or assisting people to find a field that they want to be involved in, that we can continue that type of sentence to serve? obligation. When we toured yesterday, and thank you for that tour, by the way, I really appreciated talking with all the staff people and the volunteers and the sentence served people that were there yesterday. That was a good update. There are certain needs, like one person said, they're doing oil changes, and it'd be nice to have a lift of some sort so that they're not down on the floor with jacks, and it could be a higher risk. Is that something that the state is willing to contribute? Are there special grants that we can apply for in that case for needs?
So I'll take this in three parts. First of all, I'll talk about our open house here in a little bit after we get through this. So I'll talk a little bit more in depth about that. And then this is our base funding. This doesn't actually have anything, no specific dollars. This is base funding that the state provides Community Corrections Act counties to do as we choose within the statute. So there is no specific things in terms of what's going on, other than the only exception to that is we are required to spend 2% of our base funding on training each year. So that is a requirement from the state, that 2% of that funding is. Other than that, it's pretty wide open, and that is one of the changes if we go back into the history of the CCA subsidy, is there used to be a lot of grants and a lot of requirements, and you had to spend it on certain dollar amounts. And a couple years ago, we were able to roll it all into CCA, one subsidy, $1 amount that says the county is giving the counties control over where they spend that money. So, this is the base funding, and everything above and beyond that is, where we apply differently.
Good.
All right.
Commissioner Nissen?
Yeah, just our AMC Public Safety Committee has been working on funding for corrections. Is this what is the same pot of money that you're talking about now?
It is. It's the dollar amount, the base funding that the Department of Corrections provides to us every year.
Okay.
That just provides us the base. Because the state is, parts of our supervision process, we do supervised release supervision, we provide services to felons, we provide services to juveniles, all of those things. Those are part of the state's requirements to provide that supervision, so they are providing us funding so that we can do it locally.
And we are continuing that as one of our primary.
That is the primary focus, yes.
Any other questions before I call for the question? I just want to comment, Commissioner Emdek and myself are on your advisory committee, so we saw more detail of this whole proposal, and a lot of work and time went into it, and it sounds very well done. I'm going to call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you very much.
I'll let you have that. Do you want to pass that around?
Okay, I think
And then,
we all sign this?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
We can talk about our open house a little bit. So we had an open house yesterday at our community work service site in our garages, and we brought several different of our community partners through, including judges and attorneys and county commissioners. Some of our law enforcement partners came out, restorative justice facilitators joined us, and we kind of walked everybody through and gave them kind of an update of all the different projects and things that our community work service crews have done throughout the county. It was extremely successful. By the end of the day, we had generated some new ideas, bringing out the restorative justice circles to help tend our gardens, that provides food to the food banks. We were able to talk to a judge and some of the attorneys about maybe changing some of our plea agreements and how our sentencing structure is to increase the number of hours that people are doing instead of going into our jails, which would be a win-win for everybody because it'll reduce the number of beds we're using in the jails and help us provide more community service hours out in the community. So it was a great event, actually, because we had a few people with conflicts. I think we are actually going to do it again in a couple weeks to catch up with a couple of the other judges, maybe invite our media and have a couple other people walk through the process. One other thing I forgot to mention is we also had 2 individuals who've been working on the community work service crews that were out there talking to people as well. And they did an excellent job talking about how much this has, worked for rehabilitation and given them a sense of accomplishment working through our community work service programs. I've said it many, many times, but I'm going to say that, this is one of those things. Candy Ojai really has the best community work service program in the state. It's just amazing the work that we do and get those things out there. My staff have done an amazing job. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or if any of that.
Commissioner
I
Emdek?
just had a comment. I was quite impressed. I talked to one of the clients yesterday for a few minutes, and how candid they were about what they needed to do to square themselves, and the appreciation they had for the ability to pay off some of their work in community service. And so maybe not everybody has that appreciation, but this person sure seemed to.
Any other questions, comments?
Well, just one comment,
Mr. Almond, go ahead.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was good. The video that you were playing with that individual, it happened to be a man in this case, talking about his experience there working with the staff people and what he was doing and how it made him feel. And it was almost like a session of 60 minutes watching a great interview, and it was very, very valuable. But the nice thing about it is you can see the changes in that individual talking to the staff people. You see the changes in that individual and the confidence that he was given on his abilities to do certain things. And that was an asset. And I don't know who that individual, if he's still, but if he needs a job for the county, I'd hire that guy in a heartbeat. It was a good video, well put together, and it kind of shows, it gets people a flavor of what's going on in our community. And then that would be great to put on Channel 8 for people to witness also, just a suggestion. But
So that interview, just so you know, when it's a good example of when I come before you and I talk about our evidence-based practices, and I've listed them all out. One of them is motivational interviewing, and so Brett Roloffs, who conducted that interview, it was a brief little piece of that interview that he did, but he was utilizing motivational interviewing skills throughout and drawing out and helping elicit the change talk from the person. So and it was all spur of the moment, by the way. That video was just one day they said, "What if we did a video?" And nothing was scripted. So it was pretty neat
great.
that we had that opportunity to share that with everybody and bring that forward.
I'm good.
Oh, okay. I have to say, I was really impressed. I was expecting more of the purpose of this, and it probably is, I don't know, but how open you and all the people that work there, that they took feedback about how can we do things better. And I could hear other people talking like, oh, so-and-so had a really good idea, and the exchange, and I can see how it grows and is doing so well. That is very, very positive.
So one of the things, we'll talk about that's one of my next topics, but we'll kind of set the stage up a little bit for it, is during COVID, we're having a really difficult time. We're not taking individuals out from the jail. So we're dependent only on workers coming from the community. All of a sudden, our large work crews that were doing all these activities have been reduced down to 1 or 2 people with my staff. We just don't have the number of inmates or offenders working on these crews to keep up with all the projects we have going in the county at the moment. So part of this is really to generate where things are at and relook at what we're doing. We are taking advantage of this and realigning some of it, and that was some of the things you heard yesterday as we talked about. Our staff are going to since they're spending more one-on-one time with the clients, we're working harder on adopting cognitive behavioral programming one-on-one with them when they're driving around and doing 911 signs. They can sit and talk about how do you change your behavior, how do you do rehabilitation, how do you answer tough questions in job interviews, what types of things can we do. So we're really working on adding components to those work crews that include those things. But at that same point, we don't have enough people right now with COVID to do all of the work that we're doing. And so one of the next things I just wanted to talk to you guys about is that we have Larry approached some of our nonprofit agencies that we've been doing their snow removal for, and said that, without having enough clients on our crews, we're just not able to do that snow removal this winter. This has been one of those benefits that we've provided for nonprofits in the area, where they were able to get their snow removal for free. The inmates would go in and do the sidewalks. My staff would do the parking lots with the trucks and different things, and we'd get their snow removed, which is typically actually a pretty expensive job. But now with not having enough inmates, the hours that it works, because to get those parking lots opened up, it has to be pretty early, and we don't have inmates that we can pull out of the jail early enough to do that. Our people from the community are coming in later in the morning. They usually get there about 8 o'clock, 8:30, whereas most businesses want their parking lots cleared long before that, so we can't just go pull them out of the jail to do that. It's put a strain on our ability to do the snow removal. So I wanted to present that to you and start that discussion and see if you had any concerns about what that would happen if we had to turn that down this year and not be providing that service.
Okay, questions, comments?
Well, I know Historical Society's always been a beneficiary of that, and I'm the chairman of that board, and it's too bad. I understand, though, that the availability isn't there this year, and we'll just have to suck it up and figure out how to do it ourselves, I guess.
Administrator Kleindall, would you?
Thank you. Doesn't mean that we'll never go back to doing this.
Yeah,
It just means that right now, the whole intent of the Sentence to Serve program is to train individuals and coach them in how to do things. If you don't have people to coach and train, it really defeats the purpose, and we're just doing it with our own employees. And again, that's not the intent of the program.
sure.
So as Commissioner Nissen said, it's a historical society and the food shelf are the two main ones. We do side jobs that help out with painting and stuff. And I think we still can do some of those indoor stuff. You can, like painting at the Humane Society and some of those other things and parks and stuff. But right now, at this moment, with COVID it dragging on as long as it is, we just don't have the resources.
And we will definitely can evaluate next year. And the other piece of this is we're not making any decision on the lawn mowing piece of that either, because we do also provide some of the mowing for some of these nonprofit agencies in the area. But we'll reevaluate that next spring, because that might be something we can still adjust for, hopefully. Hopefully things will go back to normal and at some point, and we can start looking at different things. But we're just, how do we adjust? And that's really, we're trying to figure out how many different things can we adjust to keep our community work service crews doing the best job that they can for the community and providing those skills for our clients as we're moving forward. And that's one of the problems we ran into.
I was really impressed when I took the tour about the community garden that you had, and it's been going forever. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I don't know how many years, but about the time
Over
it started.
20.
Okay. And the amount of food that's brought to the food shelf through that, and then the variety of skills you're trying to introduce people to. Not that you can teach them that they can go out and get a job, for example, as welding. I heard a story about welding, and one person said, I wanted to really weld, and it was a lady, and they gave her a chance, and apparently she took off on that and went to school, and there's a welder someplace, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's the wide variety of jobs. Even when I come here and I show you pictures, and that's why we did the open house. I show
Yeah.
you pictures every year and I tell you all these things, but getting to see it
Yeah.
firsthand
Yes.
really kind of makes a huge difference in terms of where we're at, and how many different skills they have, they generate going forward. And, my staff, they evaluate each person that comes through and what their skill level is and what types of things and goals they can set, and then they kind of assign them to a crew. And that's one of the benefits of having as many individuals as we have in different things. So we can adjust to disabilities, we can adjust to schedules, we can do a lot of different things, juveniles, adults, and it's amazing work that they do. I'm lucky to actually have them work for me, so I get really excited.
Okay, any other questions? Otherwise,
Just a comment, what
Commissioner Alman, yes.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I saw, they were talking to the two individuals that were on the Sentence to Serve. They showed confidence, and they had good eye contact. They were very easy to talk to. Their dialogue was good, and also I think it's building a lot of confidence and redirecting the people that were in error with their judgment, what they did, which we all done at time in our lives, and it showed a good movement forward. So I encourage you to keep that up. Thank you.
And just reiterating, going back to that, I will tell you that I did talk to the clients that were out there a little bit, and they were actually super excited at how welcoming they felt everybody else was, and that they were willing to talk to people. It also helped them seeing county commissioners and attorneys and judges come in and talk to them and listen to what their stories and their narratives. They were very appreciative of that, and the idea that, hey, they were treating me like normal people. It wasn't like I was somebody,
have some
so
value,
they were
yes.
very appreciative at the end of the day. It was actually, I think, a very good process for them as well, going through and getting to meet people and talk.
I could easily say we are all very proud of that program. So. Tammy Jo, is that
That would be
up?
all of my agenda items for the day.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that completes our agenda, and I hear recess, or I hear closed, Canuai County